The silence of deep space was broken by a crackling transmission that made Communications Officer Jihai jump in her seat. She had been monitoring the empty frequencies for hours, the routine patrol along the galactic rim offering nothing but cosmic background noise. Now her console lit up with an incoming signal that seemed almost impossible. "Admiral Hyanwu to the bridge," she called through the intercom, her voice tight with excitement and concern. Admiral Hyanwu arrived within minutes, his weathered face showing the calm focus that had earned him command of the exploration fleet. Behind him came Navigator Dongmin, tablet in hand, ready to plot whatever course their commander might require. "What do we have, Jihai?" the Admiral asked, settling into his command chair. "It's a distress signal, sir. Alien origin. The translation software is struggling with it, but I'm picking up words like help, dying, and something about burning ones." Jihai's fingers flew over her console. Trying to clean up the static-filled transmission, the bridge fell quiet. Except for the hum of machinery and the crackling alien voices coming through the speakers, even with the translation difficulties, the desperation in those voices was unmistakable. "They're calling themselves the Villani," Jihai continued, adjusting the frequency filters. "From what I can understand, they're some kind of mining colony. Someone or something is attacking them." Navigator Dongmen looked up from his calculations. "The signal's coming from the Kepler 442 system, sir. It's about 6 hours away at maximum warp." Admiral Hyanwu leaned forward, studying the tactical display that showed their current position and the signal's origin point. The system was marked as unexplored on their charts, just another dot in the vast emptiness of the outer rim. "You clean up the message anymore?" he asked Jihai. She worked for several minutes, her brow furrowed in concentration. Finally, a clearer voice emerged from the static. The alien words were strange, but the translation software began making sense of them. "Please, ... anyone who can hear this. We're peaceful people. The burning ones came from nowhere. They take our people. Our children, ... We have no weapons, ... no way to fight. If any civilized species receives this, ... please help us." Message repeated, growing weaker with each transmission. Admiral Hyanwu noticed something interesting in the aliens' words. They were asking for help from any civilized species. In the galaxy's current political climate, humans were hardly considered civilized by most alien standards. They were Deathworlders, beings who had evolved on a planet so hostile that violence and survival instincts were bred into their very DNA. Sir Dongmin said quietly, "The signal strength is dropping. If we're going to respond, we need to decide." Quickly, Admiral Hyanwu stood and walked to the main view screen, where stars stretched endlessly in all directions. Somewhere out there, peaceful aliens were dying while calling for help that might never come. "Set course for the Kepler 442 system," he ordered. "Maximum warp," Sir Jihai said hesitantly. "Shouldn't we report this to command first? We're supposed to be on a routine patrol." The Admiral turned back to his crew, his expression firm but not unkind. "Sometimes the right thing to do isn't the same as following protocol. Those aliens are dying right now while we debate procedure." As the ship's engines powered up and they jumped to warp speed, none of them knew they were about to become the galaxy's most unlikely heroes. Dr. Yunji had dealt with first contact situations before, but nothing quite like this. The Villani who appeared on her screen looked like a cross between a deer and a rabbit, with large, gentle eyes that seemed to hold depths of kindness she had rarely seen in any species. But those same eyes were now filled with terror and desperation. "Hello," she said slowly, using the universal greeting protocols. "I am Dr. Yunji of the Human Exploration Fleet. We received your distress signal." The alien's ears twitched, and it took a moment before colony leader Vathera responded. "Humans. We do not know this word. Are you a peaceful species? Can you help us?" Dr. Yunji glanced at Captain Sung Ho, who stood nearby in his combat armor. The Marine commander's presence was meant to be reassuring, but she wondered how these gentle aliens would react to seeing a soldier. "Yes, we want to help you," Dr. Yunji said carefully. "Can you tell us about your attackers? It's the ones you call the burning ones?" Vithera's large eyes filled with tears. They came 3 days ago. Ships from the darkness. They... They take our people, our younglings. They say we are good for work, for food. We tried to hide, but they find us always. Captain Sung-ho stepped forward, and Dr. Yoonji saw the alien flinch at his armored appearance. How many ships do they have? What kind of weapons? Weapons. Vithera looked confused. I do not understand this word. Dr. Yoonji felt her heart sink. These aliens were completely defenseless, not because they lacked technology, but because they had never needed to develop the concept of violence. Vithera, the things the burning ones use to hurt you. Can you describe them? They have sticks that make light and pain, point them at us, and we fall down. The alien's voice was barely a whisper now. Many of us do not get up again. Captain. Sung-ho's jaw tightened. Energy weapons. It's probably basic pulse rifles. He turned to Dr. Yoonji. His people have no idea what they're dealing with. How many of your people are left? Dr. Yoonji asked gently. We were 3,000 when the sun rose yesterday. Now it's maybe half remain. The burning ones take more every few hours. They say they need workers for their ships. Vithera's voice broke. They took the younglings first. Said they were easier to train. Dr. Yoonji felt anger rising in her chest. The same protective instinct that had driven humanity to survive on their hostile homeworld. Vithera, listen to me carefully. We are coming to help you. Our fleet will neutralize the threat. Neutralize. The alien looked more confused than ever. What does this mean? Captain Sung-ho stepped closer to the screen. We're going to stop. The burning ones from hurting you? Permanently stop them. But how? They are so strong, so cruel. We have nothing to fight with. We do not even know how to fight. Dr. Yoonji chose her words carefully. My people, ... we are different. We know how to deal with beings like the burning ones. We have ways of making them leave you alone. You will talk to them? Make them understand we mean no harm? The silence stretched for a long moment. Captain Sung-ho looked at Dr. Yoonji, both of them understanding the terrible innocence of these creatures. They had never encountered evil before, never needed to defend themselves against those who would harm them for profit. Something like that, Dr. Yoonji said finally. Vithera, you need to gather your people in the safest place you can find. We will be there in 4 hours. You will really come, even though we have nothing to offer you? That's exactly why we're coming, Captain Sung-ho said, his voice gentle despite his intimidating appearance. As the transmission ended, Dr. Yoonji turned to the Marine commander. They have no idea what we're about to do, do they? No, he replied, grimly, and maybe that's for the best. The Kepler 442 system spread out before them like a crime scene frozen in space. Tactical Officer So Young stared at her displays, her trained eye immediately picking apart what she was seeing. The Villani mining station hung in orbit around the 4th planet, but it wasn't alone. 12 vessels surrounding the station. She reported to Admiral Hyanwoo, her voice steady, despite the anger building in her chest. They're maintaining a loose perimeter, but their formation is sloppy. There's no real defensive pattern. The enemy ships were an ugly collection of modified freighters and salvaged military vessels, all welded together with armor plating and bristling with weapons that looked like they'd been stolen from a dozen different species. These weren't professional military forces, they were scavengers who had learned to prey on the defenseless. Pilot Jamin, take your stealth ship in for a closer look, Admiral Hyanwoo ordered. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with. Mon nodded and headed for the hangar bay. His small reconnaissance ship was designed to slip through enemy sensors undetected. It's perfect for gathering intelligence without alerting the target. Within minutes, he was gliding silently through the asteroid field that surrounded the mining station. So Young, what's your assessment? The Admiral asked. Tactical Officer So Young pulled up a holographic display of the enemy formation. Sir, these raiders have gotten lazy. Are used to attacking targets that can't fight back. Look at their positioning. She highlighted several ships on the display. They're bunched up in groups, probably competing with each other for the best salvage. No overlapping fields of fire, no backup plans if someone attacks them. They call themselves the Scorch Brotherhood, Communications Officer Jihai added, monitoring their transmissions. From what I can hear, they're arguing about who gets to keep which prisoners. Admiral Hyanwoo's expression darkened. Prisoners. Before anyone could answer, Pilot Jamin's voice crackled through the communications system. Admiral, you need to see this. I'm patching through the visual feed now. The main screen flickered to life, showing the interior of the Villani station, through Jamin's cameras. What they saw made several crew members gasp in shock and anger. The gentle, deer-like aliens were huddled in groups throughout the station, their large eyes filled with terror. Many showed signs of injury from energy weapons, and the youngest members of their species were nowhere to be seen. The raiders moved among them casually, treating the Villani like cargo rather than living beings. They're separating them by size, and age. Jamin's voice was tight with controlled rage. The smaller ones are being loaded into transport containers. The bigger ones are being forced to work, dismantling their own equipment. On the screen, they watched as a raider kicked a fallen Villani who was moving too slowly. The alien's cry of pain echoed through the bridge, and Tactical Officer Soyoung's hands clenched into fists. Sir, she said quietly, I'm reading massive energy signatures from the raider ships. They're not just here for the mining equipment. They're strip mining the entire station, and including the population. Admiral Hyanwoo said grimly. Reconnaissance feed. They could see Raider Chieftain Gorth, a massive creature covered in scars and crude armor, directing his forces as they systematically looted everything of value. He wore trophies from previous raids, including what looked like clothing from other peaceful species they had encountered. Jamin, how many Villani are still alive? Dr. Yunji asked, her voice barely steady. I'm counting maybe 1,500. On the station, but Admiral, there are transport ships already loaded and ready to leave. They're not planning to stay here much longer. The bridge fell silent as the implications hit them. If the raiders finished loading their ships and scattered, there would be no way to track down all the kidnapped Villani. This was their only chance. To save these people? Soyoung, how long do you need to plan an attack? Admiral Hyanwoo asked. Give me 10 minutes, sir. These raiders have no idea what real tactics look like. They're about to learn. The Admiral nodded, his decision made. All hands prepare for combat operations. We're going to remind these scavengers why humans are called Deathworlders. Admiral Hyanwoo sat in the command center of the human fleet. Watching the massive raider ships on his screens, Scorch Brotherhood had been terrorizing peaceful colonies for months. And now they were about to learn what happened when humans got involved. Open a channel to their flagship, Hyanwoo ordered, his voice calm but firm. The communication system crackled to life, and soon the ugly face of Raider Chieftain Gorth appeared on the main screen. Gorth's scarred features twisted into a cruel smile. What's this? Another weak species trying to play hero? He laughed, showing rows of sharp teeth. You picked the wrong fight, little humans. Admiral Hyanwoo straightened in his chair. This is Admiral Hyanwoo of the Terran Defense Force. You have one chance to withdraw from this system peacefully. Leave now, and no harm will come to you. The Raider Chieftain burst into laughter, and his crew joined in. Did you hear that? Boys, the soft little mammals think they can threaten us. Gorth wiped tears from his eyes. We've been raiding for centuries. We've crushed armies 10 times your size. Behind Hyanwoo, Intelligence Officer Haijin worked quietly at her station. Her fingers flew over the controls as she analyzed the raider fleet's composition and origins. Something was bothering her about their confidence. Sir, Haijin said softly, I'm picking up chatter from their ships. They're running scans on our fleet. On the enemy flagship, Lieutenant Vex was doing exactly that. The reptilian advisor bent. Over his scanner, his forked tongue flicking out nervously. Chieftain, I'm getting some unusual readings from their vessels. What kind of readings? Gorth asked, still chuckling at what he saw as human weakness. Vex's claws clicked against his console. The ship designs, they're not standard. The armor plating is incredibly thick, and their weapons, ... double quotes. He paused, his eyes widening. Sir, these energy signatures match reports from the Outer Rim conflicts. So what? Every species has weapons. Gorth waved dismissively. But Vex wasn't finished. His voice dropped to a whisper. Chieftain, I'm cross-referencing their fleet markers with our intelligence database. The silence stretched as his computer worked. Then suddenly, every scale on his body stood up in fear. What is it? Gorth demanded. They're from Terra, Vex whispered. Sir, these are Deathworlders. The laughter died instantly across the Raider bridge. Every crew member turned to stare at their screens with new understanding. Terra was legendary throughout the galaxy, not as a paradise, but as a nightmare world, where only the strongest survived. Back on the human flagship, Hai Jin had been monitoring the enemy communications. Admiral, they figured out where we're from. Yuanwu nodded grimly. I thought they might. On the Raider ship, Gorth's confident smirk had vanished. His hands shook slightly as he processed what this meant. Deathworlders weren't just another species you could bully. They were beings forged by a planet so hostile that every day was a battle for survival. Sir, Vex continued, his voice barely audible. The reports say they evolved on a world where everything tries to kill them. The gravity is crushing, the weather is deadly, and the native life forms ... double quotes. He shuddered. They had to become apex predators just to survive childhood. Lieutenant Vex pulled up more data, his fear growing with each file. Look at this, Chieftain. Their world has massive storms that can level cities, earthquakes that split continents, and creatures that make our worst nightmares look like pets. Gorth stared at the human admiral on his screen with new eyes. This wasn't some soft diplomat from a peaceful world. This was a creature whose ancestors had climbed to the top of the food chain on a planet that actively tried to kill everything on it. They don't see violence as something terrible, Vex explained, his voice shaking. For them, it's just Tuesday. Every human alive today exists because their parents were tough enough to survive in hell. The communication channel fell silent. Gorth's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. His crew looked around nervously, suddenly aware that they'd just threatened beings who considered warfare a recreational activity. Admiral Hyanwu waited patiently, knowing that the truth was sinking in. Humans hadn't become strong despite their world's hostility. They'd become strong because of it. Finally, Gorth found his voice. You were really from Terra? Born and raised? Hyanwu replied simply. The Raider chieftain's confidence crumbled completely. As he realized he was facing creatures for whom survival meant victory, and victory meant everything. The moment Admiral Hyanwu gave the order, the human fleet transformed from a peaceful formation into a deadly precision instrument. Weapons. Officer Tejo sat calmly at his console, his fingers dancing across the controls with practiced ease. Targeting Raider Vessel Number 3, Tejo announced in a steady voice, disabling their engines in 3, 2, 1. A brilliant blue beam shot from the human flagship, striking the Raider ship with surgical precision. The massive vessel suddenly went dark, drifting helplessly in space. The Scorched Brotherhood Raiders had expected a brutal slugfest. It's a kind of chaotic battle they knew how to fight. Instead, they found themselves facing something completely different. The humans moved like they were conducting a symphony rather than fighting a war toward. Squadron. Leader McCung's voice crackled over the comm system from her fighter cockpit. Dragon. Squadron. Execute formation Deltu Savan. Fina Squadron. Cover their approach vector. Her fighter wings split into complex patterns that seemed to defy physics. The Villani observers, watching from their diplomatic vessel at a safe distance, couldn't believe what they were seeing. Ambassador Kethvar turned to his aide with confusion written across his features. How are they moving like that? Those maneuvers should be impossible. Engineering Chief Wu Jin, monitoring the battle from the human command ship, overheard the Villani communication. He glanced at the fascinated aliens and decided to explain. It's not impossible if you understand how we think, he said, his voice carrying the patience of a teacher. You see, Wu Jin continued while his hands worked efficiently over his engineering console. Most species develop technology to avoid conflict. Humans had to develop it to survive daily life on Terra. On the battlefield, Mikyun's fighters performed a maneuver that looked like controlled chaos. Her squadron dove toward a Raider cruiser, split into 3 groups at the last second, and disabled its weapon systems from 3 different angles simultaneously. The Raiders couldn't even track all the targets. Impossible.
Ow.
Raider Chieftain. Gorth shouted at his tactical officer. How are they coordinating so perfectly? Lieutenant Vex, still trembling from learning about the Deathworld origins, had an answer. Sir, they're not just fighting us. They're thinking 10 steps ahead. Every move they make sets up the next 3 moves. Back on the human flagship, Teho was already calculating his next shot. Raider Vessel 7 attempting to flank our position. Compensating for their trajectory, accounting for their momentum shift in 4 seconds, his beams struck exactly where the ship would be, not where it was. The Villani ambassador watched in amazement as another raider ship simply stopped working. But how do they know where to shoot before the enemy even moves? Engineering Chief Wujin smiled grimly. Ambassador, on Terra, if you couldn't predict where the predator would be, you became dinner. We've been practicing tactical thinking for millions of years. Mikyung's voice came through the come again, still completely calm despite flying through enemy fire. This is Dragon Leader. Raider formation is breaking apart. They're trying to scatter. She sounded like she was discussing the weather. Human fighters moved in perfect coordination, each pilot knowing exactly what their wingmates would do. They herded the fleeing raiders like experienced shepherds, cutting off escape routes and forcing them back together. Watch this, Wujin told the fascinated Villani observers. We're not just fighting them. We're controlling the entire battlefield. Teho's fingers moved across his console with mechanical precision. Disabling Raider communications array, dasked at targeting their shield generators, neutralizing their point defense systems. Each shot was perfect, each target chosen for maximum tactical advantage. The Raiders found themselves completely outmatched. Their weapons couldn't lock on to the human fighters. Their communications were jammed, and their ships were being systematically disabled without being destroyed. Not even trying to kill us, one Raider pilot whispered in terror. They're just ... playing with us. Engineering Chief Wujin nodded approvingly at his instruments. Exactly right. We don't need to destroy them. Just need to make them understand that resistance is pointless. Squadron Leader Mikyung executed another impossible maneuver, her fighter seeming to stop mid-flight and change direction instantly. All squadrons maintain formation. We're herding them exactly where we want them. The Villani ambassador shook his head in wonder. It's like watching artists at work. That's exactly what it is, Wujin replied. The art of warfare, perfected over millions of years of survival. Within minutes, the entire Raider fleet was disabled, drifting helplessly in space. Not a single ship had been destroyed, and no lives had been lost. The humans had achieved complete victory through pure tactical superiority. The silence that followed was deafening as everyone processed what they'd just witnessed. While the space battle raged overhead, Captain Sung Ho led his Marine unit through the damaged corridors of the Villani station. Emergency lights flickered as they moved, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The station groaned under the stress of recent Raider attacks, but the Marines moved with calm confidence. Breach in Section 7 sealed, Sung Ho reported into his com. Moving to civilian shelter areas now. His voice was steady, like he was announcing lunch plans rather than leading a dangerous rescue mission. Behind a twisted metal door, dozens of Villani civilians huddled together in terror. They'd been hiding for hours, listening to the sounds of battle echoing through the station's hull. When the door suddenly opened, they expected to see Raider soldiers coming to drag them away. Instead, they saw something that confused them completely. The human Marines wore heavy armor and carried powerful weapons, but their movements were careful and controlled. Captain Sung Ho held up his hand in a peaceful gesture. We're here to help, he said in accented but clear Villani. My name is Captain Sung Ho. We're going to get you out of here safely. The Villani civilians stared at him with wide eyes. These were the legendary Deathworlders they'd heard whispered stories about, but they weren't acting like monsters. They were acting like protectors. Menek Yuna pushed forward, her medical scanner already active. I'm detecting several injured civilians, she announced. Nothing life-threatening, but they need treatment. She knelt beside an elderly Villani, who was clutching his arm. Please don't hurt me, the old alien whispered. Yuna's voice was gentle as she examined his injury. I'm a medic. I'm here to help you feel better. Her hands worked quickly but carefully, applying a healing patch to his wounded arm. There, that should take care of the pain. Villani engineer Cathani watched this interaction with growing confusion. He'd studied the reports about Deathworlders, read about their violent nature and their deadly world. But what he was seeing didn't match the stories at all. I don't understand, Cathani said to Captain Sung-ho. You're supposed to be dangerous. Your reputation across the galaxy is that of warriors who know only violence. Sung-ho helped an injured Villani child to his feet while answering. We can be dangerous when we need to be, he explained. But protecting innocent people isn't just our job, it's who we are. The Marines formed a protective corridor as they began moving the civilians toward the evacuation point. Every movement was coordinated, every position chosen to maximize safety. They checked each corner, secured each passage, and made sure no one was left behind. On Terra, Medic Yuna explained while treating another patient, the strong protect the weak. It's not just a rule we follow, it's built into our nature. She smiled reassuringly at a frightened Villani mother holding her child.
Yes.
We evolved in groups, and groups only survive when everyone looks out for each other. Cathani watched as the Marines efficiently cleared debris from a blocked passage. But you're so good at fighting.
Ow.
Can you be so gentle at the same time? 'Cause fighting and protecting aren't opposite things, Captain Sung-ho replied. Sometimes you have to fight to protect. Sometimes you have to be gentle to heal. We learned to do both. The evacuation proceeded smoothly, despite the chaos around them. When structural damage threatened to collapse a section of corridor, the Marines quickly rerouted the civilians through a safer path. When the lights failed completely, they activated their own illumination systems and guided everyone forward. Your people are fascinating, Cathani admitted as they reached the evacuation ship. You have the capacity for tremendous violence, but you choose to use it only to protect others. Medic Yuna finished treating the last injured civilian and looked up at the Villani engineer. That's what makes us human, she said simply. We don't fight because we enjoy it. We fight because someone has to stand between the innocent and those who would hurt them. As the last civilian was safely aboard the evacuation vessel, Captain Sung-ho did a final head count. Every single Villani had been rescued. Not one had been left behind, and not one had been harmed by the human Marines. Mission accomplished, Sung-ho reported.
All
civilians evacuated safely. The rescued Villani looked at their human protectors with new understanding. These weren't monsters from a death world, were guardians who had learned to be strong so others could be safe. Cathani shook his head in wonder. I think the galaxy has been telling the wrong stories about Deathworlders. The remaining Scorched Brotherhood ships scattered like frightened insects as Admiral Hyanwoo's fleet completed the rescue operation. What had started as a confident raiding party was now a desperate group of survivors fleeing for their lives. Admiral reported the communications officer. We're detecting 15 raider vessels attempting to escape in different directions. They're carrying captured civilians from other raids. Hyanwoo's expression remained calm as he studied the tactical display. They think they can disappear into the void and continue their activities elsewhere. He turned to his fleet coordination officer. Launch all pursuit squadrons. No one escapes to threaten innocent people again. Squadron leader. Jun-Seek received his orders with professional efficiency. Hunter Squadron, this is light. We have multiple targets fleeing the combat zone. Our mission is simple. Disable, capture, and rescue any remaining prisoners. His voice carried no emotion, just the steady tone of someone doing a necessary job. The pursuit began immediately. Unlike the chaotic retreat of the raiders, the human squadrons moved with systematic precision. Each pursuit group was assigned specific targets, and they coordinated their efforts to prevent any escapes. Aboard the fleeing raider ship Bloodfang, surviving raider Zek desperately tried to contact other pirate groups across the galaxy. His clawed hands shook as he activated the long-range communicator. This is Zek of the Scorched Brotherhood. He broadcast on all criminal frequencies. Do not engage the humans. Repeat, do not engage the Guardian Deathworlders. His voice cracked. With fear, they're not like other species. They don't just defeat you, they hunt you down with the patience of apex predators. Behind him, his ship's engines screamed as they pushed beyond safe limits. But it wasn't enough. On his scanner, he could see the human pursuit ships gaining ground with mechanical inevitability. They're not angry, Zek continued his desperate warning. They're not seeking revenge, they're just ... eliminating threats. It's like removing weeds from a garden. His scanner showed the human ships getting closer. They move like they've already won, because in their minds, they have. Squadron Leader Junseek's voice came through the comm system with calm authority. Raider Vessel Bloodfang, this is Hunter Squadron. Cut your engines and prepare to be boarded. You have 10 seconds to comply. Zek looked at his crew, seeing his own terror reflected in their eyes. They gave us 10 seconds, he whispered. Not because they need that much time, but because they're being polite. The countdown began. Other raider ships across the system were surrendering one by one as they realized the futility of running. The humans weren't chasing them in anger. They were methodically cleaning up a problem. 5 seconds, Junseek announced. Zek's finger hovered over the engine shutdown control. Around him, his crew had already begun removing their weapons and placing them on the deck. They knew what was coming. Time's up, Junseek said simply. The human pursuit ships moved in perfect formation, surrounding the raider vessel. Their weapons locked onto critical systems with precision that spoke of overwhelming technological superiority. There was no escape, no chance of victory, no hope of survival, except through surrender. We surrender, Zek. Broadcast, his voice barely a whisper. We surrender completely. The boarding operation that followed was unlike anything the raiders had experienced. The human Marines who entered their ship moved with professional calm, treating the prisoners with efficiency, but not cruelty. They secured the raiders' weapons, administered medical aid to the wounded, and began processing the captured criminals with bureaucratic precision. This is what I don't understand, Zek said to the Marine sergeant who was cataloging their crimes. We've terrorized innocent people for years. We've killed, enslaved, and destroyed. Why aren't you angry? The sergeant looked up from his tablet. With steady eyes, because anger makes you sloppy, he replied. We're not here for revenge. We're here to make sure you can't hurt anyone else. As the last raider ship was secured, Admiral Hyenwu received the final report. All enemy vessels disabled or captured, sir. All prisoners recovered safely. 0 casualties among our forces. Efficiency was staggering. An entire raider fleet had been neutralized without a single human death. The survivors would be processed through proper legal channels. Their victims would be returned to their families. The galaxy would be a little bit safer. Zek's final transmission before his capture summed up the encounter perfectly. They didn't defeat us. They just ... cleaned us up. Like we were never really a threat at all. The message spread through criminal networks across the galaxy. The Guardian Deathworlders had arrived. And they treated protecting the innocent not as a heroic quest, but as routine maintenance. The same hands that had disabled an entire raider fleet now worked with gentle precision to repair the damaged Villani station. Dr. Yunji knelt beside a wounded Villani child, her medical scanner humming softly as she assessed the injury. The bone structure is different from human physiology, she explained to Villani healer Mirith, who watched with fascination. But the healing principles are the same. We need to reduce the swelling first, then stabilize the fracture. Large eyes blinked slowly as she observed the human doctor's technique. Your methods are so ... direct, yet also careful. I don't understand how you can be both. Dr. Yunji smiled as she applied a healing gel to the child's arm. Nontera, we learned that sometimes the fastest way to help someone is to act quickly and decisively, but you always have to be gentle with the patient. Around them, the station buzzed with activity as human repair crews worked alongside Villani technicians. Chief Engineer Daehyun directed the reconstruction efforts with the same calm efficiency he'd shown during the battle. The structural damage to Section 12 is more severe than we initially thought, Daehyun reported to the Villani station administrator. We'll need to replace the entire support framework. My team can have it done in 18 hours. The administrator's tentacles twitched with amazement. 18 hours. Our engineers estimated it would take weeks to repair that damage. We brought the right tools for the job, Daehan replied simply. When you're used to building things that can survive Terra's earthquakes and hurricanes, repairing a space station is straightforward work. Nearby, a group of young Villani watched human technicians replace damaged power conduits. Their movements were precise and efficient, but also surprisingly gentle. They handled the delicate alien technology with the same care they'd shown during the rescue operation. I still don't understand, one young Villani said to her companion. These are the same beings who destroyed the Raider fleet so easily. But look at them now. They're fixing our home like it's the most important thing in the universe. Dr. Yunji overheard the conversation and looked up from her patient. That's exactly what it is, she said kindly. Every home is important. Every life matters. Why we fight so hard to protect them? Villani healer Mirith assisted with another patient, her movements becoming more confident as she learned human medical techniques. Your species confuses me, she admitted. The stories we heard painted you as violent warriors from a death world. But you're healers and builders too, or whatever we need to be, Dr. Yunji explained while checking her patient's vital signs. Terra taught us that survival means being adaptable. Sometimes you need to fight, sometimes you need to heal. Sometimes you need to build. We learned to do all of them well. Chief Engineer Daehan was explaining the reconstruction process to a group of fascinated Villani engineers. The key is understanding that everything connects, he said, gesturing. To the station's infrastructure, can't just fix one part and ignore the rest. You have to think about how the whole system works together. But how do you know so much about our technology? Asked a Villani technician. You've never worked on our systems before. Because good engineering principles are universal, Daehan replied. Whether you're building a shelter on Terra to survive, a volcanic eruption, or repairing a space station, the fundamentals are the same. You identify the problem, find the most efficient solution, and make sure your work will last. As the day progressed, the Villani began to understand something remarkable about their human helpers. The same qualities that made them formidable warriors also made them excellent healers and builders. Their attention to detail, their ability to work under pressure, and their refusal to give up on difficult tasks served them equally well in all situations. You know what amazes me most? Reith said to Dr. Yunji as they finished treating the last patient. Don't seem to see any difference between fighting raiders and healing patients. You approach both with the same level of dedication.
Doctor.
Yanji nodded thoughtfully. Because there isn't a difference. Not really. Both are about protecting life. Fighting is just one tool in the toolkit. Healing is another. Building is another. We use whatever tool the situation requires. As the repairs neared completion, the Villani station was not just functional again, but improved. The humans had strengthened weak points, upgraded outdated systems, and added new safety features. They'd treated the reconstruction not as a quick fix, but as an opportunity to make something better. The cultural exchange had taught both species valuable lessons about the true nature of strength and protection. The human fleet's work was nearly complete. The Villani station hummed with renewed life, its corridors bright with repaired lighting, and its systems running smoother than they had in years. As Admiral Hyenwu prepared his final reports, colony leader Vithera approached him with a question that had been troubling her. Admiral, she said, her voice filled with genuine curiosity, I must ask you something that my people cannot understand. Why did you help us? We are strangers to you. We have nothing to offer in return, yet you risked your lives and spent your resources to save us. Hyenwu looked up from his datapad, considering the question carefully. Around them, human technicians were making final adjustments to the station's systems, while Villani workers watched and learned. On Terra, he began, survival was never about being the strongest individual. It was about being part of a group that looked out for each other. The human who helped a stranger today might need that stranger's help tomorrow. Vethera's large eyes blinked slowly. But we are not your people. We are not even your species. That doesn't matter, Hyenwu replied. Simply, when we left Terra and found the galaxy full of thinking beings, we realized the group had just gotten bigger. Your children playing in these corridors, your families building lives together, your people trying to live in peace, ... That's worth protecting. Communications Officer Ji Hai looked up from her console with a slight frown. Admiral, we're receiving multiple transmissions from across the sector. Word about what happened here is spreading fast. What kind of transmissions? Yanwu asked. Mixed signals, sir. Some are from colonies thanking us for stopping the Scorched Brotherhood.
How?
Others are distress calls from settlements under attack by other raider groups and ... She paused, checking her readings. Several are from criminal organizations warning each other about the Guardian Deathworlders. Colony leader Vethera's tentacles curled with surprise. Guardian Deathworlders. Is that what they're calling? You, Admiral Hyanwu, chuckled softly. I suppose it's better than just Deathworlders? At least they understand we're here to help, not harm? The Villani communication networks are broadcasting our story across 3 sectors, Ji Hai reported. They were telling everyone about how the humans from Terra came to protect strangers without being asked. Vethera looked embarrassed. Hope. That's acceptable. We wanted other peaceful species to know that help was available if they needed it. It's more than acceptable, Hyanwu assured her. It's exactly what should happen. If word spreads that someone is watching out for innocent people, maybe some of these raiders will think twice before attacking. On her communication board, Ji Hai was tracking the growing network of messages. Sir, we're getting distress calls from mining colonies, trading posts, and research stations. It looks like the galaxy has more problems than just the Scorched Brotherhood. Then we have more work to do. Hyanwu said matter-of-factly. Plot a course for the nearest distress signal. We'll respond to each one as we can. Colony leader Vethera watched the human crew preparing to leave with mixed emotions. You're really going to help all of them, even though you don't know them? Of course, Hyanwu replied, and that's what Guardians do. As the human fleet prepared to depart, the Villani station's communication array continued broadcasting their story. The message was simple but powerful. The Deathworlders were not monsters to be feared, but protectors to be welcomed. Admiral Ji Hai announced, I'm detecting 17 separate distress signals across the sector. Some are from active raids in progress, others from colonies requesting protection. 17. Hyanwu considered this. We'll need to prioritize. Based on urgency, start with the active raids, then move to the protection requests. The human fleet began moving toward their next mission, leaving behind a grateful Villani colony and a spreading reputation. Across the galaxy, the word was spreading through both legal and illegal channels. The humans from Terra had arrived, and they were changing the rules of the game. Sir Ji Hai said as they entered hyperspace, the communications are calling us the Guardian Fleet of Terra. They say we're the answer to their prayers. Admiral Hyanwu smiled as he watched the stars streak past. Then let's make sure we live up to that reputation. The human fleet disappeared into hyperspace, heading toward the next group of people who needed their help.